Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast, Big League Dreaming. We thank you so much for tuning in. And this week we're talking to a good friend, Dan Hasty from the West Michigan Whitecaps. Zach, what do you think people are going to enjoy most about this podcast?
Yeah, Dan brought some good insight, some good energy. I haven't talked to Dan before. I know you guys are good friends with him and talk to him all the time. So that was pretty cool for me to get to meet him. He's a really cool guy.
Ty, what about you?
Oh yeah, definitely like what Zach said. Good energy, good vibes, some funny stories, and yeah, it's all coming up next on Big League Dreaming the podcast. Let's do it.
Ever since I was a kid,
oh yeah,
I was Big League Dreaming.
I was Big League Dreaming.
For as long as I live,
Always,
I'm Big League Dreaming.
I never got to bat in the major leagues. I'd have liked to have that chance, just once. To stare down a big league pitcher. Make him think you know something he doesn't. Chance to squint at a sky so blue that it hurts your eyes just to look at. To feel the tingle in your arm as you connect with the ball. To run the bases, stretch a double into a triple, and flop face first. Wrap your arms around the bag. That's my wish for Kinsella.
And welcome everyone to Big League Dreaming, the podcast, a show about fulfilling your dreams and taking it to the next level. I am Zak Gonzalez, the dad. And of course, if you listen to the podcast, you know this is a dad and his three sons. Today, we have two of the three. Let's say hello to son number one, Zach, in Charlotte, North Carolina. How you doing, Zach?
Doing well. Good to be here. How are you guys doing?
Good to see you. We're doing great. And next to me is son number two, Ty.
What's up, everyone? How's it going?
He's doing awesome.
Yes.
Right? You doing good?
Yes.
He's got his Whitecap shirt on.
Yep.
We're going to be talking a little Whitecaps baseball here in a few minutes. Son number three, Zane. Zach, did you send Zane the link to this podcast today?
I did.
Well, you never know. He might show up in the middle of it. So, hey, guys, it is that time. We're going to talk a little bit about the mid-season classic. We are broadcasting today show from LMCU Ballpark. This is where you guys roam the field here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Grew up here day one since it was open here every season. This is home.
Section 221.
Yep.
We had, in fact, I ran into, you remember Will Shrum? I ran into his son last night you don't remember Will?
Was he the usher?
No.
Or the guy that sat next to us?
Yeah, the guy that sat next to us.
Yes, I remember Will.
Well, we'll talk, we'll reminisce a little about Whitecaps baseball in a minute, but let's bring in our guest for today's show. It is Dan Hasty from the West Michigan Whitecaps, the broadcaster, play-by-play guy. How you doing?
What's up, Gonzalez? The Gonzo fam. That's right. What's happening?
Well, a lot's been happening. We started this podcast a year ago, right here, as you know, and we were here, I think, for opening day last year for the Whitecaps when Spencer Torkelson was here, right? You have your podcast. Oh my gosh, Road to the Show. I mean, it's just such a popular podcast. You've had some great guests, and we're excited to have you on our Big League Dreaming podcast. Thank you so much for doing this.
I appreciate that, you guys, and it's in some ways a lot like your podcasts. I mean, we're just talking to kids who have hopes of cracking a big league roster someday, and just kind of taking them along that journey. And that's the fulfillment. I mean, we've been doing this now since 2015 and gotten a chance to watch a lot of guys grow. A lot of guys. I mean, so to be able to turn around and see a guy like Spencer Turnbull throw a no-hitter, or to watch a guy like Spencer Torkelson trying to figure things out and, hitting a big home run in a night in Kansas City. I mean, watching Riley Greene deliver a game-winning home run. I mean, there's a lot of satisfaction on a lot of different levels.
Well, baseball is in your blood, just like it is in ours. Why don't you, Dan, give us real quick, because we're going to talk a little bit about the All-Star break. We'll talk about the upcoming draft taking place on Sunday. But the main thing is, let's get some of your background, because you're not in the office, by the way. Ty went over there and said, "Hey, let's just take over his office, your studio."
Honestly, you probably should have. I don't think it would have bothered anybody. But no. So the difference is one of the last times that we talked, and we've done a couple of podcasts together, John. Yeah. Is when we were originally doing podcasts, I did not have to enroll in daddy daycare. And now, thankfully, the daughter is down for her nap. So I am coming to you live from my car inside of my garage. So I am making sure that she doesn't hear me, and I've got the monitor over here. So everything is under control. But in terms of that, I mean, yeah, you guys should definitely enjoy that ballpark. It's one of the best in the minor leagues.
It is one of the best in the minor leagues. Yeah, Ty and I are going to roll around here a little bit. The grounds crew is out there working already. Hopefully there's a game tonight. But Zach, real quick, Dan's story of recording in his car in his garage with his little one sleeping, you could relate to that, right?
Oh yeah, because when I put my girls down to bed at 8:30, we do our podcast at night, and by then Ty's asleep. So you never know what you're gonna get.
Yep.
That's great. Well, Zach, we appreciate you joining us from Charlotte. We're here in Comstock Park. Dan's he just finished mowing the lawn, right, Dan?
That's right. That's right. Very important things happening here around the home front today. We're getting stuff done, boys.
That's great. Well, let's talk about your background though, because you've been with the Whitecaps since what, 2015, did you say?
That's correct. Yep. 2015 was my first year, and that was the year that the Whitecaps won the Midwest League Championship. So it was a pretty fun year. It was a pretty good time to be around.
Tell us your baseball story. Where are you from originally, and did you have aspirations of playing in the major leagues like all kids?
Yeah, I think like anybody else we did. And I mean, you want to be a ball player for as long as you can. It's much like guys who are actively in the minor leagues. You play for as long as you can until they tell you can't play anymore. So, but I always sort of knew that my likelihood was going to be on a microphone and not on the field, just because I grew up with it. I appreciated it. I was fascinated by it, listening to Ernie Harwell as a kid. So, that idea had been in my mind almost as long, probably for longer than actually being a ball player. When I was 5, I knew I wanted to talk about baseball for a living. So that was the lucky break that I ended up finding along the way. Because I mean, now especially, there's only 120 minor league baseball teams and affiliated baseball. So, that's not a whole lot. And to be able to be a part of an organization in the Caps that's just been doing things right for such a long time is pretty unique.
So you can relate to being 5 years old, right? And eating, sleep in baseball.
Oh yeah. Was here on my 5th birthday. Definitely.
Yeah. I remember that. It's been a lot. We have great memories here at the ballpark. I would imagine, Dan, that's part of the reason that you wanted to do baseball, or that you found out that you kind of fell into it, right? Because you're probably like me, passionate about the game, you're focused on the game, but as you have spent the years here at LMCU ballpark with the high A affiliate for the Tigers, you probably have noticed how the game also gets out into the stands, right? And into the lawn, and people have their stories to tell.
Well, the formative years for me took place at Old Tiger Stadium. When I was young, that was right at the very tail end of Old Tiger Stadium. So my first baseball experience came at just the mecca of Major League Baseball old school stadiums for anybody who's a Michigander and probably in areas beyond. So to be able to grow up and feel that atmosphere, and to smell that ballpark, and to have that anticipation of walking up the old corridor, that little tunnel that would shoot you out to the playing surface that you could not see until you went up that corridor. And it's the same reason that every new ballpark I ever go to, or even every ballpark I've ever been to, the first thing I'll do when I get into the field is to go walk so I can see the playing surface, just because that's the experience I had as a kid, walking around Old Tiger Stadium with my dad. And I feel lucky that I got a chance to be there for that old ballpark. I miss it terribly. And I actually remember during those same formative years, we went on a camping trip one time, my family and I. And I remember looking up the local baseball team, and I asked my parents, I said, hey, there's this team called the West Michigan Whitecaps, and I would love to see their game at some point this week, because they have this kid on the team named Joel Zumaya. And he's a starting pitcher, but I hear he throws like 100 or 101, 102 miles per hour. And I would love to go see him play. And they were like, yeah, sure, no problem. So we went to the ball game, but I was too young to understand how pitching rotations worked. So I didn't understand that there was a 1 out of 5 chance that Joel Zumaya was going to be pitching that day. Of course, he was not. But after the ball game, my dad actually found out where like the players go to like their cars down this big long staircase. So he took me over there, and I got to meet him after the ball game. We had a picture together, and It's really cool now, fast forwarding 20 years, because I still have that picture and I was able to show it to him. So we got a chance to see the two of us just eons ago. But yeah, I mean, those were formative years, and I'm glad I had the experiences I did.
I love that story because, I mean, these two guys are here, Zach and Ty both have similar stories. I mean, Zach, you remember the night you met your hero, Ken Griffey Jr., right?
Yeah, I was at Tiger Stadium after the game. Called me over and signed my ball. I think I was 7 or 8, right, Dad?
Yeah, you were young.
Yeah. I mean, Ty, I think you were there too. Just going to that old ballpark. I don't know how clear your memories are, but I remember being in the stands and getting a Little Caesars pizza up in the upper deck and going down low for batting practice, getting Alex Rodriguez autograph before the game during BP, seeing Randy Johnson walk around. All those clear memories of that old stadium is really fun. And I mean, a bunch of stories come to mind when I think of minor league baseball in general, and at the Whitecaps, seeing those old players come through, whether it be Brandon Inge, Eric Munson, Robert Fick, Ben Grieve, watching him back in the day, all those guys, plenty of stories.
Ty, you probably remember Shea Stadium just as well as the old Shea Stadium, right? As much as Tiger Stadium.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was a good trip. That was the classic Gonzalez baseball trip. The 5 stadiums in 5 days that we decided to do last minute. That's how we do things.
I say that I'm just super jealous of that? I've always wanted to go on a trip like that and have never had that opportunity. So the fact that you have is pretty special.
Yeah, definitely. We were very fortunate to do that. We were in New York, went to a Yankees game, Mets game, and then it kind of just funneled after that. On the way home, we just kind of started hitting up stadiums.
You know what I've always wanted to do? I've always wanted to find a way to do 4 games in 2 days. And that would have to require New York and Chicago, because obviously those are the ones that are close enough to where you could like do a day game followed by a night game. But I just feel like 4 games in 2 days is like the ultimate. Like, it's like, how does anybody do this kind of trip?
Doubleheader. Mariners just played a doubleheader in DC the other day, and Paul Sewald got 2 saves in 1 day. So check it out.
Ooh, I didn't even think about the doubleheader element. Now we're talking.
Dan, just so you know, once the Mariners talk starts, so out of my 3 sons, right? Zach is the Mariners fan. Ty here is the Mets fan. The youngest one, Zane, is the Red Sox fan. My wife, Pam, as you know her, we're both diehard Tiger fans. So the Mariners are right now the hottest team in baseball. The Tigers were there briefly, but that's a different story.
I think I identify most with Zach, only because of the fact that we've been through it together. I mean, how long is that Seattle playoff streak or playoff drought now running? I mean, just to feel like, I'm so happy that it's working out for them, because Julio Rodriguez is an absolute superstar. So that's going to be a lot of fun for those guys. And I may have happened to have gone on a vacation with my wife to Seattle for the first time within the past year, and we were just obsessed with that whole town.
Yeah, I mean, we had to bring up the drought, right? 21 years since 2001. Julio's the real deal. We're all excited for him to come up, but it's really been the pitching staff this year specifically that has set them apart. They're the only team in Major League Baseball that have 5 different guys, 5 different starters have 5 quality starts or more. So the starting pitching has really been key for them to be able to keep this run going. They've won 11 games in a row, longest streak since 2001, where they had 15 in a row. It's just been incredible. Last night I was watching the game, thought for sure they were going to lose, down 5-1 to Martin Perez, who's absolutely nasty in Texas. They scored 2 in the 7th, 3 in the 8th. Come back, Ty France, who's struggling off the IL, gets a big hit, win by 1 run, incredible. Great time to be a Mariner fan. And yes, just like you said, the Pacific Northwest is absolutely gorgeous. I feel like it's just this hidden gem, just like tucked away. It's like one of those ballparks that nobody gets to because it's so far away from everything else. I'm from here, I'm from there. I've been to the 2 stadiums that are around me outside of my local team, but I'm not going to, go the extra couple thousand miles away to go out there to Seattle. So yes, the people that have been there, They rave about it. The opposing media guys and the commentators that come in, the radio guys, Seattle's one of their favorite cities to go to out of all the American League cities that they go to.
Well, Zach, you mentioned Julio. I guess it's a good spot to talk about the home run derby. Ty, Pete Alonso, is he going to do it?
Third time he's doing it, guarantee it. Put money on it.
Mets fan here. But
Guaranteeing it.
Julio's in it. And who are some of the favorites this year? Do you think who would battle Pete Alonso in this year's home run derby?
Yeah, Julio might battle him, but honestly, I don't think anyone has a chance. He's unstoppable in the derby. No one can beat him. He just can hit home runs on command.
What do you think, Dan?
I mean, Alonso feels like the smart play, but I've never been interested in making the smart play. So
you're going Albert, aren't you? You're going to go Albert Pujols.
No, you can only hit a ball so far with your cane. Let's see. I did read somewhere that Juan Soto's goal of the home run derby is to hit the longest opposite field home run in derby history, which I totally dig. But I don't think that's going to mean he's going to end up as the winner of the derby. I think he's just taking a very advanced round of BP. So it's probably not Soto. Alonso, I don't know. I mean, yeah, he probably win it? Sure, but a part of me would love to see Julio win it, only because he has a chance, based on how he started this year, to become one of the new faces of baseball. And at just 21 years old, like, that's a transition I'd love to see. He seems like he's got the right personality, he's got the right skill set, and to do it in LA, I mean, what bigger stage can you do it on? So yeah, you know what? Give me a dark horse, because I like the odds. I always like the odds. Give me Julio Rodriguez this time around.
Zach's not going to disagree with that.
I mean, AllStar Game 2023 is in Seattle, so let's run it back.
He would become the fourth player. Let's just say he did that. Let's say he won this year, he won it next year. There's only 3 players in baseball history who have won the derbies back to back. Pete Alonso is one, obviously. The other is Yoenis Cespedes, who played as an Oakland A couple of years. You remember that big old chain he used to have while he was hitting bombs, right? And then the last one is Ken Griffey Jr. So, I mean, that's pretty unique company to be in. I mean, there's not enough small clubs in baseball anymore. It feels like everybody's done everything. So to only have a couple of names on the list is pretty special.
Yeah, a real quick talk about the minor league draft. Where are the Tigers draft? Because I was looking at some stats this morning, and I saw that the Twins and I want to say the Royals are in the top 10, or they're in the first top 10 picks of the draft. Where do the Tigers land for this year's draft?
So the Tigers have the number 12 pick. They had a little bit of a better season last year than they had in previous seasons. So it bumped them down a couple of spots. They did receive an extra pick in the second round. That was a competitive balance pick, and they ended up trading that away. So they have a second round pick. They just don't have a second rounder per se. They also used up their third round pick to sign Eduardo Rodriguez. So they're at a little bit of a deficit, but not a significant one. So they don't have as much in terms of money allocated and budget available to them. But right now they're at number 12, and everybody and their brother says that they're going to take this left-handed pitcher out of Alabama. His name is Connor Prelip. He had Tommy John surgery back in May. And the fact that the Tigers are considering taking him at number 12, I think tells you a couple things. I think it tells you that the Tigers and the rest of Major League Baseball is no longer thwarted by guys who have Tommy John surgery. And quite frankly, I think it might just be an asset to get it out of the way. In today's day and age, I mean, how many crummy pitchers do you hear about getting Tommy John surgery? Not much. Usually it's anybody who's good needs Tommy John surgery. So I don't want to say it's like a stamp of approval, but it certainly is not as much of a threat as it used to be. So if they take this kid, Connor Prelip, a lefty out of Alabama, who has just maybe the best slider in the entire draft. I know that's been a pitch that's been a big priority for them to acquire. They tried to get that last year with Jackson Jobe. He's more of a project. They're still kind of teaching him how to become a pitcher rather than just a thrower. So they've got a ways to go with Jobe, but Prelip, who started throwing, I think he threw a bullpen session in front of like 100 scouts, like I want to say maybe a month ago, and he looked good. He looks great from what I understand. So yeah, I mean, there was talk that he was going to be the #1 overall pick had he not gotten Tommy John surgery. So if it gives you an idea of the talent level we might be dealing with, that's why Connor Prelip's considered at number 12.
Zach, what have you heard about the draft? Any players you're looking at?
Yeah, I keeping my eye on the Michigan kid, right? The Orchard Lake St. Mary's pitcher Brock Porter. One of the mocks that I saw, they had the Tigers taking Brock Porter. There's talks of him maybe being the first pitcher taken in the draft. If it's not, the Tommy John guy we're talking about. So we'll see. I'll keep an eye on Porter because you really like to see the Michigan kids get drafted just because there's not many Midwest kids that do go, especially high school kids, right? Never really see many Michigan kids taken in the draft. So that's really, really special that if he lands in Detroit, it'd be pretty cool. A dream come true for him, I'm sure.
Yeah, I love it when Detroit, Michigan players get a chance to play for the hometown team. Obviously we've talked a lot about Eric Haas on last year's pod. Do that, we would appreciate that. We talk baseball all year round and have a little fun doing it. But he's done. I think I still love watching him play. I know he's not one of the primetime players that gets a lot of publicity, but when he's in the lineup, the Tigers to me just seem like a scrappy team, a scrappier. Come out when he has some success. Tara, are you watching the draft at all? Because I haven't done a lot of work on the draft.
Not really. When is it? I don't even know what it is.
6 o'clock on Sunday, I believe, on the Major League Baseball Network. Will be the first 2 rounds on Sunday, and then I think Monday goes to MLB.com after that. Right? Am I right, Mr. Hasty?
That's right. And, it's a big deal. I mean, for anybody, especially if you're tuned into a team like the Whitecaps or, if you follow a minor league team, I mean, the guy who was taken at number 12 overall could very well end up directly to West Michigan. And I know we talked about the pitcher from Alabama, but let's say they don't. Let's say that there's a bat that falls to them. And I know that every Tigers fan and their brother would be very relieved if they ended up taking a bat at number 12 over a pitcher, only because of all the years on years of investing in arms. But let's say they do take a college bat. Well, that player probably ends up directly to West Michigan. And we're talking about a guy that will probably instantly slot in as maybe the Tigers' number 3 prospect. So we're talking about a very legitimate big league possibility with a kid who will be coming in with all the juice in the world. So if they do end up with a bat, I do think it ends up in West Michigan rather quickly, if not right out of the gate. And I think that's always going to be fun with it.
We lost you there. So talk about the bat again. If a bat comes to West Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, they could essentially be there right out of the chute. And you're talking about maybe the number 3 prospects for the Tigers. So, I mean, that's a pretty big deal. And I think no matter who it is, if it's a bat, I think that'd be a lot of fun for West Michigan.
Yeah. Real quick, who are some of the players that you've been impressed with this year for the West Michigan Whitecaps? We're about halfway through the season. Still a lot of baseball to play. Who has impressed you the most?
Yeah, so far, there's been a couple of guys. Wilmer Flores had some of the most electric stuff that we've seen around here in years. And he started the season in West Michigan, virtual unknown, college kid, didn't get drafted. Granted, it was the 5-round draft back in the pandemic year, 2020. And Wilmer Flores came in and struck out like everybody. It was really fun. Like 19 innings, he struck out like 40 some odd guys. And he made himself a top 100 prospect. That's what Baseball America considers him now. So he really did build up his prospect stock, and that's an organization that desperately needs more guys to fit into that top 100. So Wilmer Flores is one, and then Colt Keith is another. Colt Keith is right there on the outside looking in. He would have probably been a top 100 guy if it wasn't for a shoulder injury that he suffered back in June. So hoping to see him back before season's end, but he was putting up some numbers that we hadn't seen around here since Riley Greene. So for me, it's Wilmer Flores and Colt Keith.
Awesome. Zach, anything else you want to add? Because I want to have Dan wrap this up. Ty, anything you want to add?
I'm good.
You're good? Zach?
The Tigers got one All-Star, right, this year, outside of Miggy?
No.
One plus Miggy. Yeah, Greg Soto and Miguel Cabrera. So Soto's going now 2 years in a row. And I honestly kind of feel like he got named to the team because he's more of a strategic advantage if you're trying to win that ball game. There's not a lot of lefties that throw 100. So, you know, regardless of, you know, how much he makes Tigers fans want to pull their hair out, I mean, that's an asset. If you're trying to win a baseball game, a lefty that comes in and throws 100, yeah, there's a spot for him. So that's part of the reason he's a two-time All-Star now. So we're excited for him.
Don't forget, Willie Horton's going to be there.
Willie Horton's going to be managing with Dusty Baker, and that's really special. He's one of the great people in baseball. I've long been a fan of Willie Horton. I've had a chance to interact with him a couple different times, and he's just to sit with him is to spend an afternoon understanding so much more about baseball than you ever did before. So that's one of the things that I love about Willie, and I know he's going to be keeping everybody loose in the dugout come the All-Star game.
Well, Dan, I'm watching looking at the field. I see Jim Jarecki. Looks like he's leading a group of, I'm not sure what he's doing on the, why is it intern? Why would he be even on the field? Jarecki never goes to the field, does he?
Can I tell you what I bet he's doing? I bet he's pulling a tarp right now. I bet they're organizing a tarp pull.
You're right. I see how did he know? And I see more people coming from the front office. It's all hands on deck here.
And he's got his radio in his hand.
Yep, absolutely. It's tarp time.
Yep.
Wow, you called it. All right, Dan, where can people find more information about you? Listen to your podcast and hear your broadcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, all the Whitecaps games, whether it's home or road, you can get those on whitecapsbaseball.com. We do a TV broadcast for our home games, so that's available on MILB TV. And then obviously with the Tigers, it's the Road to Detroit podcast. So wherever you go listen, go ahead and give us a follow on there. Road to Detroit this week last week had Jim Callis, who's like the Mel Kiper of MLB Pipeline. I think he's made like 6,000 mock drafts already. So he joined us last week. And then this week we had Austin Bergner, who's the Tigers top 30 prospect, who was a big time high school prospect. He could have easily gone and been taken high in the draft. He decided he wanted to go pitch at North Carolina instead, and he struggled there. And now he's in the Tigers system and he's dominating. So we try to get to the bottom of what happened at North Carolina and try to figure out what's actually clicked for him since he's become a professional, because he's putting up better numbers now than he ever has in his career. He wasn't good at UNC, and slowly his ERA has crept up as he's advanced through the system. I think he had a 4.5 ERA in low A, a 2.90 ERA in high A, and now his ERA is like 2.3. So it's like, how are you doing this? So he'll explain how that's happened for him, something that's so hard to pull off. Not many guys ever can put up numbers like that and get them better as they progress. So we get to the bottom of that latest Road to Detroit podcast. And if you want, if you're really feeling dangerous, you can follow me on Twitter at that Dan Hasty.
We can't wait for that. Dan, can you guess how many people it takes to roll out this tarp? We can count them right now as we speak. By the way, Jim's not pushing it. He's just watching, supervising.
No, he is. He's the train conductor. He decides when that train leaves. So it's a very important job. So he's the maestro of the orchestra. So I'm guessing there's probably about 15 to 20 people out there.
What do you think, Ty? How many do you see out there?
17.
And
17.
And Jim's got his hands on his. Oh wait, he's directing. We're gonna give you. How about if we give you the play-by-play of how this goes?
Give him a baton. He does his best work with the baton.
Dan Hasty, one of the West Michigan Whitecaps, we thank you so much for being on today's show.
Happy to do it, guys. Appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Glad to listen along and glad to follow you guys throughout this process. So keep up it and can't wait to do it again.
All right, take care, my friend.
Thanks,
See you
Dan.
guys.